The motorized rifle troops represent the third tier of Russia's ground combat capability. Special operations troops, or Spetsnaz of various types, are used for covert or irregular warfare. The airborne forces and the Navy infantry are the forced entry specialists, but can also provide larger units of elite soldiers to engage in conventional ground combat. Motorized rifle troops, on the other hand, are the backbone of the Russian ground forces. Their task is heavy and sustained ground combat with support by other combat arms such as armor, artillery, and combat aviation. Their frontline strength is represented by some 22 permanent readiness brigades. Each brigade's organization resembles that of a motorized rifle regiment in that it includes 1 tank battalion, 3 motorized rifle battalions, plus up to 3 artillery battalions and generous provisions of service support units. This enabled individual brigades to operate as self-contained, independent battlefield formations without requiring much support from higher formations such as corps or army, in contrast to motorized rifle regiments which operated only as part of divisions and relied on support from divisional level units. In the event of a major high-intensity conflict that could not be resolved by the regular army, the task of the permanent readiness brigades would be to act as a screen behind which the mobilization of reserve motorized rifle divisions, which have been reduced to the status of military bases, would be carried out. This is an invisible but important part of Russia's defensive potential, which historically has relied on the ability to outmobilize its, on paper, more powerful adversaries. The fact that the Russian Federation still practices the draft means that there is a large number of recently discharged soldiers who, if need be, could be recalled back under the colors. In recent years, the Russian government updated its legislation governing the status of the reserves and conducted a larger number of test mobilizations of reservists, which is an indication that this aspect of military modernization is not being ignored either. Motorized rifle troops training in recent years has benefited from a large number of field exercises and the commissioning of the 333rd Training Center in Alabino, which allows entire motorized rifle brigades to receive highly realistic unit training. The recent events in Ukraine and other parts of the world have shown that the Russian military's new look that was propagated by Defense Minister Serdyukov on the assumption that the West would accept Russia as an equal partner, an assumption which also led to the ordering of the Mistrals at the French shipyards, has become obsolete, which among other things meant that the motorized rifle troops required an upgrade to their capabilities. The fighting in Ukraine, as well as large-scale maneuvers and simulations in Russia, revealed that independent brigades are not well suited to sustained high-intensity combat and do not represent an efficient use of resources. This led to the decision to reactivate several motorized rifle divisions whose organization appears to follow that of the Soviet era, with 3 motorized rifle regiments and 1 tank regiment each, supported by an artillery regiment and other units. Moreover, motorized rifle troops are receiving significant attention when it comes to their equipment. Their effectiveness will benefit enormously once these units begin to receive the Ratnik equipment suite, including upgraded or new assault rifles. Their armored vehicles are similarly in process of being upgraded or replaced. The most important change in that area was the introduction of the BTR-82A, which is an upgrade of the BTR-80, that features an unmanned turret equipped with a 30mm automatic cannon. Battalions equipped with the BTR-82A boast a high level of strategic mobility due to their air transportability and the ability to cover large distances by road more rapidly and with less logistical support than battalions equipped with tracked vehicles. The ground forces also ordered about 300 upgraded BPM-3 infantry fighting vehicles and have evaluated a number of modernization proposals for the existing several hundred vehicles. In the upcoming years, motorized rifle will begin receiving the brand new Kurganets and Boomerang tracked and wheeled infantry fighting vehicles which made their public debut at the 2015 Victory Day Parade. These vehicles represent the state-of-the-art of infantry fighting vehicle design and will ensure Russian motorized rifle battalions will, if it comes to that, enter future battlefields riding highly mobile, well-protected and heavily armed vehicles.
The Iskander M has no shortage of admirers. They include the Islamic State and other Islamist entities in Syria, Poland, Turkey, NATO as a whole, and of course the United States. Seemingly, no other Russian weapon system is as likely to steal a headline as soon as it makes an appearance somewhere on the global chessboard. To what does it owe its worldwide fan base? In part, the answer lies in its actual combat abilities. It is a medium-range missile system which uses a combination of maneuvering and therefore difficult to intercept ballistic missiles, capable of carrying a variety of conventional and nuclear warheads. It is extremely accurate, with a circular error probable of under 10 meters, which makes it useful against heavily protected small targets that would require a direct hit in order to be destroyed. Its officially acknowledged range of 500 kilometers makes it a weapon of far more than tactical importance, as it can destroy sites far behind enemy front lines and hold in check enemy value targets such as key infrastructure, high-level command posts, and logistical nodes. The entire system is based on highly mobile wheeled platforms, which are suitable for aerial transport by heavy airlifters. Iskander-M deployment to Syria demonstrated Russia's ability to send these powerful warfighting and conventional deterrent weapons to almost any friendly part of the globe on a moment's notice. As of April 2016, the Russian military had 6 complete Iskander-M brigades in service, with each brigade possessing 12 launch vehicles. Since each vehicle carries 2 ready-to-launch missiles, with reloads carried by the brigade's resupply vehicles, each brigade is capable of a simultaneous 24-missile volley, which would be sufficient to saturate any tactical anti-ballistic missile system currently in service or development. In effect, a single Iskander-M brigade is equivalent to 3 Bayern-M missile corvettes in terms of firepower, though the land-based launchers can be rapidly reloaded, whereas the corvettes would have to return to base for replenishment. The other reason for Iskander-M's popularity is its political dimension. By the late 1980s, the Soviet military was using 2 sub-strategic ballistic missile systems, the 120-kilometer range Tochka and the 450-kilometer range Oka. Even though Oka's range was below the 500-kilometer threshold of the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, the Gorbachev government in effect made the US a present by pledging to eliminate the Okas along with longer-range missiles. Even though it left the Soviet military without a modern operational range missile system, evidently Gorbachev and others hoped that such weapons would be unnecessary in the era of the New World Order. They turned out to be wrong. The Iskander-M was developed and deployed in order to fill that gap once it became clear that NATO's intentions towards post-Cold War Russia were far from benign. NATO, and especially the US, has undertaken several initiatives to render the INF Treaty obsolete. They include the deployment of intermediate-range air-launched cruise missiles, such as the JASSM, carried by tactical aircraft, whose existence clearly violates the spirit of the INF Treaty. The US Army has since deployed large numbers of ATACMS ballistic missiles, whose officially acknowledged range is 300 kilometers, though the missile's actual potential is unknown, and the LPRF program is supposed to yield an even longer-range missile for the US military. Cruise missile-carrying US naval ships, including the rather well-known USS Donald Cook, regularly approach Russian coasts. But the most direct US violation of the INF Treaty is the placement of land-based anti-ballistic systems in Eastern Europe. These systems use the naval Mk-41 launchers, which are perfectly capable of using the entire range of Tomahawk cruise missiles. Therefore, the deployment of these ABM systems also means a US breakout from the INF Treaty. The Iskander-M, therefore, should be viewed as a Russian response to the US INF violations. In addition to the 9M723 ballistic missile with a range of 500 kilometers, each launch vehicle can also fire the 9M728 cruise missiles, whose actual capabilities have never been revealed, though the missile has been tested out to at least 200 kilometers. Considering that the size of these missiles is comparable to the Kaliber sea-launched weapons, whose range exceeds 2,000 kilometers, there is a definite possibility that the Iskander-M could be equipped with weapons of similar range, unless the US begins to display more of an interest in re-establishing a mutually acceptable security framework for Europe.